It's time for the KickAround, the Ticket's weekly show all about soccer. 2 hours of HSOs on the clubs, leagues, and tournaments of the world's game. It doesn't matter if you're new to the sport, don't worry. This is the Ticket. We're just kicking it around. Now, two guys who can never go the full 90. Andy Swift and Peter Welton.
Para Italia, el disparo. ¡Bosnia lo gana! ¡Bosnia y Herzegovina avanza a la final del repechaje y va a enfrentar a Italia a través de los tiros penales. Los bosnios todo el tiempo vinieron de atrás.
So, Spanish call of Bosnian goal, I think. That's what that was.
You're welcome. Howdy ho, P1s, and welcome to the KickAround. Saturdays today from noon to 2:30 here on Sports Radio 96.7 and 1310 The Ticket. That tickled me. Where you, the good P1, sits around, talks about football in Spanish and all that implies. That was Spanish?
It was Spanish.
It was Spanish. Okay. Hi, it's me, Peter, and to my left, but to your right, as you stare quizzically into your broadcast device or streaming box, it is the world's most interesting and trilingual man. It is Andy Swift.
You know, that's the thing about the world's game. Where else can we get a Spanish call from a closet, it sounded like, of a Bosnian goal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was
and
the Bosnian.
PKs
Yeah. The winning Bosnian goal in PKs.
The English-speaking
Welsh. That's right.
English-speaking some of the time because they also speak Welsh.
Welsh, yeah, for sure.
Those are your
England
people. Where you
and
sat.
Germany and Spain. You got Grenada, Ghana, Guinea, Norway, Turkey.
It's this time of year, man.
Yeah.
Iceland.
This always comes in.
Nigeria, Ecuador.
You're so excited of Ecuador.
Yeah,
I love it.
But no Wales.
You didn't have Wales in the list.
No.
We need you to redo
redo
the
the list.
214 nations.
Finland.
That would be awesome to do that. Well, welcome to the show. Yes, we are back, the soccer show of record here on the Ticket in our 12th year, and we're heading up to the World Cup, which starts for us on June the 10th, the evening of Wednesday, June the 10th. Lars will be here, Andy and myself, and we'll start doing our nightly wrap-up show on the Ticket, 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, and our normal Saturday slot and some Sundays as well, as we plow through our fourth World Cup.
Wow.
Andy, can you believe it?
Is it 4, really? Wow.
It is our fourth, 2014 Brazil.
Yeah, 1.
2018 Russia.
2.
2023 Qatar.
No.
I mean, 2022 Qatar. And 26, the good old USA,
4.
Mexico, and Mexico.
We can count.
All right, here we go. Let's get into the show. We got lots happening today around here.
Like what, Peter? Tell us.
All of the soccer has happened. Do you have World Cup fever yet, Andy?
Well, it's like watching these matches and being called like World Cup pre-group stage matches. It kind of felt a little World Cup-ish, didn't you? Didn't you get the feeling? Yeah,
it did. Although it also felt very fractured, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on. So yes, the playoffs for this week. We'll get into that. Lars will be joining us here in about 30 minutes or so to talk specifically about all the matches in the UEFA playoff group, which is 4 of the 6 teams to be announced. Jeff Carlisle from ESPN will be joining us after the top of the hour to help us preview this afternoon's big game for the U.S. men's national team. We're playing Belgium at 2:30. Lots of drama with the national team out of the blue as what was already a weak position at center back got a lot weaker in the last 24 hours, and we'll get into that. Plus, Andy, if you're feeling really tingly, it's not because of the World Cup, because another cup is nigh upon us of equal importance.
The mini World Cup.
The Dallas Cup begins tomorrow, and we'll get into that. Andy, who obviously has lots of ties to that, will do that. And then we'll also then ask the question, does anybody like a good old-fashioned rodeo? And we'll do that all today. But first, let's get into the most important and serious of all the segments. So yesterday, along with kind of following up to all the playoffs, we did have a series of friendlies take place. Did you happen to catch any of these?
Like actually watch them?
Well, them or the highlights or anything like that?
No, I think one was on before an actual game that it mattered on Fox or something. But no, I looked at the scores. But so you have two kinds of games with these friendlies in this window leading up to a World Cup. You have those amongst teams that have already qualified playing each other, serious tune-up games, kind of like the U.S. is going to play today. Then you have like all those teams that didn't qualify for the World Cup where every team basically qualified for. Those few teams that didn't, they play each other. So you have games like Bulgaria playing against the Solomon Islands, for example.
You don't care about that. Nobody cares about that.
Producing a 10-2 scoreline. Were you into that game? Did you watch the highlights of that game? Did that game interest you?
No, of course not. I watched a lot of highlights because, this was the other thing about all of this is I was really disappointed how fractured all of the playoff games were. I thought somebody, Fox or Fubo or VIX or somebody was going to throw together a wraparound show for all of those games that were being played at the same time the other day. And there wasn't. And here in the United States, I'm really curious, like, why was the Wales-Bosnia game on Fox and not the Italy game?
Because Fox made that decision.
Well, that's my question.
Yeah.
But why that game and not, obviously, the Italian game, which would be a much bigger draw?
But instead of which game?
The Italy game.
Instead of the Wales game?
The Wales game, which is what they put on FS1.
I understand you want to for sure show the Turkey game, right? Because that group affects
right,
the
and
US.
that was on earlier. That was the earlier game, so that wasn't in the main window.
Yeah.
So
at worst, show the Bosnia game, the other one, right? Because that also leads to the U.S. group.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I was just disappointed that there was no easy way for here in the United States to consume the games, and really the only way you could do it was kind of pick one and then go back and hope you could catch highlights of everything after the fact, which was very, very weird. But the other thing that was going on is that while these games were going on, there were friendlies, and one of the big ones that took place, for reasons I'm still confused by, other than, I guess, money, up at Gillette Stadium outside of Boston, it was France and Brazil.
Why is that surprising to you?
Well, why would you travel all of these players who were playing in Europe over to the United States for a meaningless friendly when you could have played it over in Europe?
Well, then, because most of the Brazilians play in Europe, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
So it's just
you have to have. Sorry, you have to have a promoter that is wanting to put on the game.
I'm sure it's all tied to money, and I'm sure it has something to do with the fact they're both Nike teams and they were both wearing their new World Cup away kits.
For example, Jordan played Costa Rica and Turkey.
I don't.
Right? So, I mean, same thing, right? Why do you go all the way there?
I don't know. And obviously, it was a massive sellout. They sold a ton of tickets, but I watched parts of this game. I don't know if you know what happened. France ended up winning this game 2-1. But the French won the game despite the fact that they went down a man on a red card, on a Dogso red card. And then France, despite the fact the game was donuts at that point, France sliced through Brazil on that first goal and scored easily on the second goal. And I don't know how much you take away from March friendlies like this, but Brazil did not look good.
I don't like to take much from these, but I think Brazil has to be concerned at this point because it's been a while now that this team has really just been very lackluster, including qualifiers, like real games.
Yeah. Now they're in a group that it's got Morocco, but other than that, there's no way Brazil gets grouped at this new format World Cup.
Yeah,
is there?
I was going to say I don't know if we're going to have a situation where one of the powers gets grouped. By group, meaning they don't advance out of group play, because so many teams now advance out of group play.
And we've seen Germany get grouped in the last, Germany, Spain.
But those are different circumstances.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
But that's kind of why it's...
Who else is in that group?
Spain, Morocco,
Haiti, and Scotland.
Yeah.
So you can't see Brazil stumbling against all three of those, which is what they would have to do to not advance.
No, I wouldn't think so.
But that Morocco-Brazil game, it's up in the air right now. It's up for grabs.
Yeah,
because Morocco's a pretty strong side. So
they
anyway.
are. Are you aware of the Hakimi story from Morocco? Do you know that he's facing rapé charges?
Oh, really?
He's been
Wow.
the court in France has said he has to go stand trial, and yet he's still playing for Morocco. And I don't know if his chances of playing in the World Cup are in danger.
Well, that would depend on how quickly this goes through the court system, I would assume.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess so we'll worry. That's another thing for another day. So France ends up winning that game. By the way, the French away kit is really great. If you haven't seen it, it's an homage to the Statue of Liberty. So it's kind of this weird original copper mint color with copper trim font on it. The Jumpman Nike collab for the Brazil away kit looks like somebody threw up all their water down the front of their kit shirt kind of thing. It's not good.
Did you see Indonesia beat St. Kitts 4-0?
Okay, now you're not even trying. The other kind of interesting friendly that happened, this happened yesterday, was England and Uruguay. This was the return of Bielsa to London, and all the Leeds fans showed up with their signs telling how much they love Bielsa.
Yeah, they still do. Crazy, huh?
But the headline of this one was not anything I anticipated. It was the Ben White story, and I had totally forgotten about Ben White's national team drama from 2022, where he essentially declared himself uninterested in being called up and kind of got the ire of all the English fans. Well, he got called up for this. He came into the game, scored the goal, and then gave up the late penalty that allowed Uruguay to tie it 1-1. And then, by the way, when he came on the field, he was booed.
Wow.
When he scored the goal, he was booed. And then he gives up the red card, the PK, not the red card, the PK, and got booed again.
Wow.
English fans are wild ass when it comes to that kind of thing.
So what happens when he plays in the Premier League?
Well, he's
away,
with Arsenal.
But when away,
I'm sure he still gets booed.
Yeah.
But this is very specific to the fact that he declined a call-up for the national team essentially on the precipice of the 2022 World Cup.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch. Ben White's got this whole story about how he got interviewed once and said he doesn't watch soccer. He loves playing it, but he didn't care about it other than that, and all that jim jam. Other than that, England's got. I continue to predict them to be a World Cup favorite in my book, but they do have issues at right back.
Okay, hold on. This week, who's your World Cup?
I'm just going to stick with England for right now. Who are you?
Sticking with Spain.
All right.
Nothing's
This is a
changed.
dumb bit. We've never changed.
Let things play out a little bit here.
Yeah, I suppose. So then Spain beats. England's just a crazy story. We'll get more into that later on. Spain beats Serbia 3-0.
See, that's why I have them still as a favorite.
Okay.
I couldn't divert from that.
The Dutch came back from behind to beat Norway 2-1. Now, Norway obviously didn't have Holland in the lineup or Odegaard. Holland was being held out. And so there you go. And then the other thing I just wanted to check in and take your temperature, Andy, is this was the week we we officially found out that Salah is not going to return to your dear sweet Liverpool.
Rumors were there, but it's finally official.
How are you handling this news?
You know I'm handling it well because I was the one that said that extending him for that much was probably...
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Played out exactly, right?
So where are all those people today that were like, oh, wait, we shouldn't have re-signed him to that new deal?
Yeah. So, I think it's the best outcome for both sides. For the club and for him, because they just basically took away that second year and everybody's happy about it. And he'll be free.
Do you think that re-signing him just delayed the inevitable transition that the team is going to have to go through without him?
Probably. You owed it to him to give him the chance to have this year play out. You just owed it to him. Now, the one that may pay the price for all this is Slot, right?
For sure.
Yeah, but you had to give him the chance, and it all came down as
you paid him an awful lot of
one
money
predicted.
for a really SE season.
Sure, yeah, but you had to do it because of everything he's given you in the past too. You could not do it.
Is he Liverpool's greatest ever player?
That's up for debate, but that's a good one.
I saw Jamie Redden, what's his face, said he was only the 5th greatest player in Liverpool.
Yeah,
history.
I don't know if you can put him. I'd have to think that through. For somebody of my generation, you'd say Stevie Gerrard for sure. Mm-hmm. But previous generations have their own favorites as well. So
we need Andy's official list of the 5 best Liverpoolians ever. You don't need it right now. You can ponder on that.
Firmino, Andy Robertson, Steven Gerrard. Those are my top 3. Oh, and Allison. There you go.
What about Van Dijk?
And Van Dijk. There's your 5 all time.
Salah's not even in the 5?
Yeah, not even in the 5.
Whoa!
No, of course I'm kidding.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You were just doing the bits are fun. All right, there you go. There's your headlines. When we come back, let's talk about the 2 games that took place down in Mexico as we finalize the last 6 teams for the World Cup, and we'll do that next here on the Kick-Around.
Hey,
Our
Pete.
favorite No,
go ahead.
Our favorite Norwegian Lars will be here in a little bit to talk about the playoff games from Europe. And then Jeff Carlisle will be joining us to help us preview the U.S. men's national team game later today on the Kick-Around.
Hey, Argentina had a friendly as well. We didn't talk about it. They won 2-1. Did you catch any of the highlights there? They were at home. You know who they played? Mauritania.
Yeah, a country I probably can't point to on.
Why are they playing like?
I don't know. Can I also tell you, I saw in the aftermath, Enzo Fernandez was quoted as saying that the pitch was not good and up to standard, and that's why they were having a hard time. And I panicked because I thought or assumed they had played the game here on one of the World Cup surfaces, and that was going to be the beginning of all the noise about how bad the fields are here in the U.S. But no, it was actually in Argentina at which stadium?
Bombonera, the Boca.
The big Boca.
Yeah.
Which should have a
Mauritania.
great field, right? It should have perfect grass.
Big powerhouse.
All the time. All right. Well, welcome back. As I said, those guys are joining us here in a little bit. But first, let's get through the games that happened in Mexico. These are the FIFA International World Cup Qualifier Playoff games. There's a Path 1 and a Path 2. So first off, it was Bolivia as the host team against Suriname.
Yeah, the games are in Mexico, so host team.
I guess it doesn't make a
it
difference.
doesn't matter. But Suriname was playing within their own confederation because they're CONCACAF.
Oh, this is not a
And
good
Bolivia, who finished 7th out of 10 in South America, got all their wins at home because they play in altitude, and that's how they get wins. They take advantage of those. So they played Suriname, who doesn't have a great record within CONCACAF of doing anything. So this was a matchup of giants here. And, man, did you watch the game?
I did. Suriname is largely just an assembly of Dutch guys who just never made it much more than like the second or third tier of Dutch soccer.
Yeah. They all play in Europe. And I figured that might be the advantage between these two teams, that advantage Suriname for that reason. Bolivia has about half the roster. They play in Bolivia, and the rest, various parts of the world. And all I could think of watching this game was, man, Mbappe and France and Holland and Norway are just watching, just salivating. Like, how many am I going to score, 5 or 6 against one of these two teams? They do have to go through Iraq, right? That's the next game played Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
But, like watching this, what were they thinking?
It was not good.
Yeah.
When it comes to trying to make sure that I'm caught up on all things Western Hemisphere football, the Caribbean, South and Central America, I always turn to the good John Arnold. And John wrote an article about this game and pointed out that Suriname is this really weird, fractured puzzle box of puzzle pieces of players and have not played a lot together, where Bolivia apparently is a bunch of guys who have all been together as a team for quite some time and had a lot of time playing together.
It sounds like youth soccer.
It does.
This under 16 team, they've been playing together since they're under 12. They're going to be a lot stronger. This other team, they just got together this summer. They all made the tryouts.
John Arnold, are you?
No, but just that you have to talk about it this way is weird.
But despite all of that, it wasn't a very good game, and Bolivia went behind. They went down 1-0.
What a game! What a match!
And I thought, man, Bolivia's going to blow it. And they came back and they threw on a couple of subs. And right off the bat, the young 18-year-old kid, who, by the way, is plying his craft not even in the Western Hemisphere. He's playing for a club in Morocco. Mm-hmm. Did you see this goal? Mm-hmm. It was a very Sunday League goal.
Yeah.
Like a scramble, mad mess in the box, and he toe pokes it.
So was the Suriname goal, by the way.
Yeah, it was. And Bolivia end up coming back and winning the game 2-1, and now they face off on Tuesday night against Iraq.
Yeah, so there's a story there, too, because Iraq had issues leaving the country because of the military conflict in the Middle East. And it was the Mexican government that ultimately stepped up, sent them a plane so they could charter.
Oh, is that who sent? I heard they ended up taking a charter flight, but I didn't know who took it.
The Mexican government got really proactive, and so I don't know. These guys haven't played together in practice in a while either, I'm sure.
Well, I was talking about this.
So Bolivia, how's it going?
I guess I was talking to Lars about this, and I was like, "Yeah, I just assume Iraq's going to beat either one of these two teams," and he's like, Iraq isn't very good. And I thought, oh, okay, I didn't know. So maybe Bolivia
hold on. Stop. It's all relative because Bolivia's not very good.
I know.
And neither is Suriname. So they're all not very good.
Yeah. And whoever ends up
and one of them
is arguably in the group of death anyway.
Right. That's the thing is like, and then Senegal's, we mentioned France and Norway. And Senegal.
Yeah. Whoever wins that game ends up having to play France, Norway, and Senegal in their first World Cup ever? No, Iraq's been in the World Cup.
Yeah, Iraq's been, and Bolivia's been too.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, this would be their third or fourth. They're just going to be fodder for goal difference at that point.
Yeah, it wasn't great and a very weird game. I also point out, so they were playing in a stadium of 50,000 capacity, and there were 34,000 people at the game, which is a really amazingly solid turnout for a meaningless game in a country that had no reason to go turn out for this.
Yeah, well, meaningful game.
Yeah, I'm sorry, meaningful game.
But meaningless to the people of that country.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for crystallizing my thought.
It was lots of, they had a fair share of Bolivians there, but lots of Mexican nationals just rooting for a game that leads to the World Cup. And I think, Mexico has games, so they're probably all excited.
And then that was Monterrey. That's the Monterrey Stadium, which has the beautiful background. And then the other game was in Guadalajara.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was a stadium of 41,000. It was essentially full, which was New Caledonia from the Oceania Confederation and the very well-known around here Jamaican team.
Yeah.
And Jamaica... This is another not very good.
And the winner of this little path goes to Portugal and to face Ronaldo in Portugal in that group. But and Jamaica now has to play Congo. But Jamaica, New Caledonia, it should have been like New Caledonia is a small country, part of Oceania. New Zealand always qualifies from there. Not a lot of soccer history. Not a lot of. The player pool doesn't have a lot to draw from, right?
Did you read the story about the collection of guys on this team and how they all had to kind of find their way to Mexico?
Yeah, So that the 1-0 scoreline is huge credit to them for even.
Look, I was shocked how good they were. It wasn't a great game, but I was way more impressed by New Caledonia than any of the other teams I watched that night.
Yeah, Jamaica against New Caledonia, a little bit of organization. Tactical organization, and it would have been 6-7-0, but Jamaica just not tactically organized.
No.
And again, you got those teams in Portugal's group that includes Uzbekistan and Colombia, probably just salivating at the thought of having to play one of these teams. And this is. I think now it was these two games where we started to see the effects of a 48.
Yes, this is the thing that I was.
World Cup, right?
This is the real splash to the face, which is this going to tell us? Is this the warning sign?
Yeah.
Is this Saad's throbbing toe up front telling us that this World Cup's got a problem where we're going to have a bunch of really not great matches because we've watered down the pool.
Well, not a lot of them, but there'll be some matches involving teams of this level that won't be great games.
But there are already teams that have qualified that I think aren't necessarily that much better than these guys.
Yeah, we'll have a few of those
that are in some of these groups.
Yeah. Now, World Cup, the passion, the teams are, there's a certain amount of emotion these teams will bring to these games because it's the first time they're in a World Cup. That'll be neat. Those will be good stories, but the soccer itself might lack
because
a little
it's tournament play, and tournament games tend to be more defensive minded because there's so much on the line. You can't afford to drop points and things like that. I that's one of the kind of running storylines about the structure of this World Cup as we get into it that I'm sure you and I will and Lars will get into a lot more in the lead up to it, which is because more teams can make the round of 32 than not. How much of what we're going to get out of a group stage is people just being super cautious and just trying to collect 3 points for whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, 3 points might probably get you through with a decent goal difference. Now, finishing in first will get you probably a matchup against a much weaker opponent, and that's going to be the first goal.
Yeah.
But if that goal seems unattainable or you don't do well your first match, then you're just going to coast a little bit.
Now, Jamaica does have to face off against Congo, and I would, based on what I saw, Congo's got to be a massive favorite in that game.
Yeah, I would agree.
Unless there's some reason that Congo shows up and just, they all have food poisoning or something.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think DR Congo should be the favorite there.
Which would be a huge shame because the kits that Adidas made for Jamaica are really nice for this tournament.
But, and maybe they learned from that game against New Caledonia and the coach makes tactical changes.
They just don't look like they care very much, if I'm
They
being
look
honest.
like they care. They don't look like they have a game plan. It's a little bit like Sunday soccer,
Yes.
right? Watching it, it's like there was a lot of kick and run going on.
Yeah. Neither one of the games were particularly good. I will say, though, New Caledonia, for a bunch of essentially just Sunday league guys out there trying to qualify for a World Cup, were way better than I thought they would be.
Yeah.
They were very organized. And
They got gassed. It all ultimately came down to fitness because these guys just are not as fit.
yeah. And the reason why I bring up attendance is for all the people predicting that the World Cup's going to struggle with ticket sales, I would just point out that essentially games that in Mexico mean nothing to the local population had really, really good turnouts for all of those games. So that probably, I think, is an indicator of what you can be looking for.
At least in Mexico.
When the tournament comes. Yeah. All right. When we come back, we'll get into the games that took place in Europe. And to do that, we will bring in my friend, Andy's friend, and your friend, Lars, next year on the KickAround. The U.S. men's national team have an interesting friendly against Belgium coming up later this afternoon. And in about 20 minutes or so, ESPN's Jeff Carlisle will join us. Maybe he will give us a heads up on what the starting 11 looks like here on the KickAround. Welcome back. Andy's here. I'm here. And on the Diamond Factory ticket hotline, or better known as the interwebs, it is your favorite Norwegian and mine, Lars Sivertsen. Howdy, Lars.
Hi, guys.
Lars.
How you doing?
Good.
Good to be here.
Did you consume much football this week, sir?
You know what I did, and I've really gotten into the World Cup mood. I mean, I'm almost worried that I've gotten enthusiastic maybe too early. Like there is actually quite a lot of Premier League to deal with before we get there.
Oh, come on. It's just World Cup.
I want to say this. I watched the on the evening when we had all these playoffs over here in Europe. I watched it in a bar with two friends of mine who are Swedish and one friend who is Danish. So we had the Sweden-Ukraine game on one screen and the Denmark-Macedonia on the other. And these are friends who they like football, but they're not. They've never asked me to come watch football with them before. Like they wouldn't for a Premier League thing. And this is why international football is so great. Like anything people might say, like international soccer isn't the highest technical and tactical level, and for sure there are people who follow their clubs as they are in a religious manner in Europe, but international football has a cut through that isn't matched by anything else.
Yeah.
Like if you have any interest in sport, you will turn up when your country is playing in the World Cup, and it crosses all kinds of cultural barriers. It cuts through absolutely everything. I would argue there's no cultural event like it in the world, not even the Olympics. And I just got a little bit of a taste of that this week, and it made me feel good, and I was really excited about it.
Oh, Lars, you're sounding like me. I'm a little tears in my eyes. Because you were saying we look at things so differently when it comes to World Cup. But yes, exactly. It's not just about the quality of play. It's everything else that comes with it. Right?
It's nationalism and loving your country. Yes, for sure. All right, let's
watching people who enjoy sports but are not fanatical soccer fans just lose their heads completely over this game that's happening over time. It's wonderful. Yeah. It's great. That's what it should be like. And I'm looking forward to / am slightly terrified about seeing my team in a tournament again for the first time since 2000, when the last time we were at a major final. So this is going to be quite emotional for me, but we'll see how I deal with that when we get there.
Can't wait to see it.
Well, let's run through some of this, and we'll try to do it in the most neat way possible. Let's first talk about the final that'll take place on Tuesday between Kosovo and Turkey, because the winner of that will end up in Group D, which is where the United States resides, and will be the third team the U.S. plays in their group stage. So, Turkey ends up getting a win 1-0 over Romania, Lars. I don't know if there's too much happening there.
Well, the sort of Cliff Notes thing to know for casual American sports fans about Turkey as an opponent, if you get them, is that they're one of the most underperforming football nations in the world, I would argue. They're a huge country that's completely soccer mad. There's like 85 million people there, and the soccer is, the fandom is extraordinary. And with that kind of population to draw from, they always produce talented players. Pretty much every generation will have a couple of guys who play for big European teams. But very rarely does the national team get it together and fulfill their potential in tournaments. And looking at this group, I suspect it will be much of the same. They have some profiles like Arda Güler, the excellent midfielder who's at Real Madrid. He had a wonderful assist for the goal here against Romania. They have, Kenan Yildiz plays for Juventus. Çalhanoğlu is a lovely midfielder, plays for Inter. They've got some really good guys, but they are almost always less than the sum of their parts, and they're not tactically very well, put together, I would say. And that game against Kosovo, they have a lot better players on paper, but I don't think that's a slam dunk for them at all. I think that's a real banana skin for them.
Exactly, especially because of the way this tournament is formatted, which is not the highest seed necessarily hosting. It was they had a draw,
random draw,
yeah,
right.
ahead to see which of the two matches the winners would host, and it turns out Kosovo will host that. So, right? I mean, we have to rethink that it's automatically a Turkey win here.
Yeah, and this will be played in Pristina. And Kosovo, small country, 1.5 million people, but they have a huge diaspora they can draw from. I think something like 12 players in the current squad were born outside of Kosovo, a lot of them coming up through the Swiss sort of talent development structure, some from Germany as well. So you've got quite a lot of guys here who are playing for solid European clubs, even though Kosovo, like I said, small country, but people who are well schooled and who are extremely motivated. There's a really strong they're a young country, they're very proud to be here. It's a real underdog story. Listen, I'm not expecting them to beat Turkey. It is probably Turkey America will face, but this is a really interesting game and one I'm really looking forward to watching, actually.
All right, the other one, obviously. Go ahead.
The question is how it affects the U.S. group from the American supporter perspective. Clearly, it's two different groups if Kosovo goes through or if Turkey goes through, correct? I mean, if Turkey goes through, they would have to be considered the group favorite over the U.S.
But if Kosovo has won a road game in Slovakia and beat Turkey at home.
Very different at home, in Europe, blah, blah, blah. Very different World Cup setting, away from home, in the heat. I don't think Kosovo, it'll be a different story.
Okay, all right.
Lars, do you agree with that?
I do agree. I think from the U.S. perspective, if you're obviously hoping for the U.S. to do well, you'd probably rather have Kosovo in that group than Turkey. But I think Turkey is a team the U.S. can beat, even though they have really good individual players. They are a team that, on their day, they are a bit of a mystery box. It's the Forrest Gump box of chocolate thing. Like, you don't really know which version of this team is going to turn up ever. So I think the U.S. on a good day with like 11 guys who are well drilled and fighting really hard for each other, I think you've got a decent chance against them.
All right, the other one, there was obviously a lot of interest because for some reason, somehow Italy hasn't played in the last two World Cups and has still found themselves needing to win playoff games to get into this one. They end up beating Northern Ireland 2-0. A Tonali goal was so good to open the scoring for them. They face off Bosnia and Herzegovina, who ended up coming back out and, Edin Dzeko happened at the end of that game and tied it up and made it 1-1, and they ended up going in on penalties. But again, per Andy's point that these games where they were going to be played, these finals, was a random draw. Italy has to go on the road to Bosnia to win one more game before they qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah, no, Edin Dzeko is worth mentioning here, just as a story, because the guy is 40 years old now, it feels like he was almost written off as being old and slow like 7-8 years ago, and he's just still going. I believe he is now scored. I mean, he's got 147 games and 73 goals for Bosnia. That's quite something, as a good record for a smaller nation. And also, I believe I'm right in saying he has scored a goal for his national team every year for 20 years, which is an absolutely unbelievable thing to achieve. And I mean, he's old enough that actually, I mean, at the risk of turning this a little dark, I mean, he grew up when there was war I remember reading an interview with him when he talked about he was literally like dodging sniper fire to get to training, you know, it was really serious in that part of the world that which feels like a long time ago now, the war on the Balkans. So he's seen a few things. And you're right. I mean, this game against Wales were the better team, but they couldn't get the second goal they needed, and then suddenly there was Edin Dzeko. And this is why I sort of think, again, Italy should win this. They have a lot better players, but they were not convincing against Northern Ireland. And they certainly, having seen them play against Norway twice, I'm not sold on this Italy team at all. And I definitely think there's a version of this where if they can't get the first goal early on in the game, and the longer this drags out, suddenly there's always a risk of this very old man turning up in the right place at the right time and doing them some damage.
Italy will be thinking about the 2022 playoffs when they also played a Balkan team and lost 1-0 at home to eliminate them from World Cup contention.
Yikes.
So now they go on the road to the Balkans. You know they're thinking about that. So
Yeah,
they will be. It's again, this is so. I'm not sure they'll necessarily be great spectacles, all of these games, in terms of quality, but it's so tense and exciting, these playoffs games that happen next week. I'm absolutely very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, Moise Kean, former Everton grade, having to score in 5 consecutive games to power Italy. By the way, can you name where Moise Kean plays, Andy?
Mm-mm.
I couldn't either. You know where he plays?
Mm-mm.
Fiorentina.
Oh, okay. Well,
our own favorite Italian club team he's the striker there.
The winner of that group, by the way, Canada goes to start the World Cup in Toronto.
Yeah, and I think Italy being in that group fundamentally changes all of that for everybody over there. All right, we got to keep going. So Denmark will play Chechnya in Chechnya. The winner of that game goes to Group A. Or what did I say?
Yeah, that's a very big distinction there, Peter. Sorry.
Yeah, I screwed that up.
I mean, if they were playing Chechnya in Chechnya, that would be a news story. Like that would be quite something.
Sorry.
I can tell you, I don't think many of the Danish players would go for that one. I think a lot of them would have mysterious hamstring injuries. And
Peter just needs to call him. He needs to call him Czechoslovakia and just make it easier for him.
We're not getting on a plane to Grozny right now. Like I'm just not doing it.
Sorry, I read it wrong. Yes, they're playing the Czechs. So, the Czechs ended up beating Ireland, and that was a terrible game because Ireland. But that was a PK that Ireland didn't need to give up. The guy wasn't even headed to goal when he pulled his shirt. And that was the dumbest thing ever. And Ireland ends up blowing a 2-0 lead, and the Czechs go through, and now they host the Danes in this game here. And by the way, Denmark won their game 4-0.
Yes. Denmark played North Macedonia and were pretty convincing, albeit against a weak opponent. And I do think the Czechs are not great either. I mean, this is not a strong Irish generation at all. The fact that the fact that the Czechs were 2-0 down to this Irish teams. I mean, the storyline is obviously how could the Irish throw this away? This is sad because a lot of people have a connection with that country and would have wanted them at the World Cup. But the reality is, man for man, this is not a strong squad at all. And the Czechs are a better team, but they didn't play well either. And my feeling is, I think the Danes should take care of this. My Nordic brothers. The only thing about Denmark is, again, a stronger team than the Czechs. They're in better shape than the Czechs. They just have like the odd stinker in them, which is a concern. Like they had a 2-2 draw at home to Belarus, which should never happen. Not that long ago, they had that weird game against Scotland where there was a goal from miles out and it's McTominay overhead kick and all this sort of strange stuff. You don't fully trust the Danes, but they are a better team, and I'm expecting them to take care of the Czechs.
All right. Did you want to throw in
No.
Group A?
They
go into Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico's group.
And then obviously the last one, and this is the winner of this game goes into Group F with the Netherlands and Japan. Also, it kind of feels like not a great result. But it's Sweden and Poland. Sweden ended up getting a hat trick from Gyökeres, who really could use that. They beat Ukraine 3-1. And Poland ended up beating Albania 2-1. I don't even know if I saw the highlights of that game, Lars, to be honest with you. And so
it was a back. The two goals were one. The goal they conceded was a bit of a defensive boo-boo, and then the two goals was a back post header from a corner from Lewandowski, and then a great shot from miles out by Zielinski. So that one is worth looking out. But I think this could be a terrible game of football because these teams are a little bit similar. With the injuries Sweden have right now, they're missing Alexander Isak, they're missing Dejan Kulusevski, but they do have Gyökeres, and Gyökeres was brilliant against Ukraine. He was the difference between the two teams. Ukraine actually played better football here, but they didn't have any cutting edge up front, and Sweden were just well structured and relied on Gyökeres to take his chances, and he did. What I'm getting at is Poland are kind of the same. They're not a very good team, but they have that man Lewandowski up front. They're both the teams that have like some pretty strong, physically tough guys, not a ton of creativity, but a very good striker up top. I think this could be quite a, entertainment-wise, quite a poor game of soccer, and I think it'll come down to which of the star strikers can take whichever few chances come their way.
In 2022, they did play in the playoffs. Poland won that game 2-0 in Poland, so now it's the rematch in Sweden to see if Sweden can now advance. By the way, the winner of that game will play here in Dallas against Japan.
That's right. That's one of the group stage games.
For those P1s going to a game here, keep an eye on that game.
We want all the Swedes here for that one.
We want all the Swedes because Lars will be here.
Lars wants the Swedes here.
All the
Scandinavian.
All the Scandies. That has to be good for my career. As many Scandinavians as possible in the U.S.
We will then
all
use
the hot
you.
Chicks.
We will
Eyes
use
on
you.
the bag.
We will use you to meet the Swedish fan base. So
Yes.
Lars will be our. How you take a puppy to the park? We'll just take Lars around.
Yeah, we'll just take.
Yes. This is.
Go introduce us to Sweden.
Oh, what a sweet Norwegian you have with you. May I pet him? Lars, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy evening way over there to catch up with us on all this stuff.
Anytime, guys, and I like the fact having me on a little bit more often as we sort of ramp up to our World Cup coverage. I mean, I may have peaked too early with my enthusiasm, but I was really feeling it this week. Like, I was really feeling it. So much looking forward to this.
The great Lars Sivertsen will be joining us for the entirety of World Cup KickAround, coming to you soon. Thanks, Lars. When we come back, Jeff Carlisle checks in from Atlanta as we preview the U.S. men's national team game next on the KickAround. Well, we spent a lot of time talking about the World Cup, but starting tomorrow, our favorite part of spring in DFW, Dallas Cup, kicks off. And lo and behold, we have a Dallas Cup expert right here in our midst. And we'll talk about that here in about 15 minutes on the KickAround. But first, more very important things. Live on the Diamond Factory ticket hotline from ESPN, live from Atlanta, Georgia, is the good Jeff Carlisle. Howdy, Jeff.
Peter and Andy, how are you?
What up?
Andy, we're running a little late. I don't want to burn Jeff's valuable time.
No.
He's trying to cover a live sporting event today. Thanks, Jeff, for doing this. We appreciate it.
No problem.
I am going to ask you right off the bat. I know it hasn't come out yet. Have you wink, wink, seen the roster, the starting lineup for the U.S. men's national team today?
I've seen nothing. It's due out in about 12 minutes. So if you're going to ask me for my lineup, you can see how much of an idiot I can make of myself.
Well, we're done with you then. Okay. Well, thank you for.
Okay, we'll play that game, Jeff, because we'll get it here in 15 minutes, and we won't have you on the line, and we'll either go, "Wow, that Jeff is sharp," or we'll laugh at you behind. We'll laugh with you. We won't laugh at you, Jeff. What do you think the starting 11 looks like today for the Yanks?
Well, this is what I would put out there if I were coaching the team, which I'm clearly not. Freese in goal. I think you have Ream, McKenzie, and Trusty as the center backs because those are the only center backs they have left. Although they could throw a wrinkle in there and play Alex Freeman or Joe Scally there, but I think they'll go with those three guys. In midfield, I think you've got Anthony Robinson and Tim Weah as the wingbacks. And then in the middle, I think you've got Johnny Cardoso and Tanner Tessman. And then kind of the attacking trident is Pulisic, Balogun, McKennie.
Okay.
I That's what I would put out there.
Yeah, that feels right to me too. But I do want to go back to this center back thing because I was watching Pochettino's press conference this morning, and the way he tells the Chris Richards knee injury story, I'm sorry, but that bothered me and worried me greatly because he made it sound like Chris Richards was allowed to come play in a national team game from Palace after a midweek European game and showed up with a knee injury. And did that rub you the wrong way like it did me, or am I overreacting?
I mean, define injury. I mean, is it just something that's been bugging him? Is it something that's like more serious? Did it keep him out, of their last competitive fixture? I mean, so it didn't bother me much. I mean, obviously Richards tried to train Wednesday, couldn't make it through the session. I mean, I think I saw him on Thursday, but I mean, we're only allowed to see the first 15 minutes, and then we are, the media is
they shoo you away,
escorted off the premises. So, it's, I mean, really, for Chris Richards, is he going to be healthy in May? I mean, that's the key thing. I mean, obviously, you'd like everybody to be healthy now, but Tyler Adams isn't there, Serginho Dest isn't there, so I mean, they're already dealing with a somewhat depleted roster, not majorly, but those are a couple names that you would love to have out there. Plus Richards, it makes it three. So
I guess at least my biggest worry now, and it has been for a little bit, is how this whole center back situation works out tactically and now from an injury perspective. With the injuries, with Chris Richards now being a little bit of an uncertainty, does he go back to the 4-man back line, or is he going to stick out
He'll
this
stick
three?
With three? Yeah. Wouldn't you say you stick with three?
I mean, he has other options. I mean, Alex Freeman played as a center back in one of the recent games. So did Joe Scally. So I mean, it's not like there's only three center backs on the roster. He can still play three in the back, given the current roster that he has. But I think it's a fair question. Does he go with just the two center backs? I mean, or is it kind of like a hybrid where one of those guys basically stays back? And they kind of have a 3-man back line in attack and then kind of backfill it when the other team gets the ball. So, I think he will stick with three in the back, but we'll see. I mean, Pochettino's thrown out some tactical wrinkles before, so it wouldn't be the first time if he does it tonight.
By the way, Chris Richards has been getting some media attention of late, and it's well-deserved because of his play for Palace, but Pablo Maro wrote an article about him today and has this fantastic quote from Chris about Chili's, the restaurant, and how pure American it is, and it's so great. You got to read it. You got to go find it. I don't know if you've read it, Jeff, but it's pretty funny stuff from Chris, who's a great character. And gosh, I hope he's okay. I hope he's healthy. The other thing about this particular pair of games for the U.S. is the insertion of one. It's going to wear Andy out, Giovanni Reyna, and whether or not we'll ever see him do anything again. And also Johnny Cardoso, who always plays well for his club, but shows up in the U.S. uniform and always just drives everybody nuts. You predicted the latter would start today. Do you think we'll also get Reyna in the game too?
I think you'll see him at some point over these next two games. I mean, I think Pochettino's got to figure out if November was a fluke, or if all this time that Reyna has spent on the bench has, kind of seen his game wither away a little bit. So, I was surprised that Reyna was called in to begin with, just given his lack of playing time. He has not seen the field for Borussia Mönchengladbach since mid-January. I mean, that's how long it's been.
I know, it's crazy.
We'll see what happens. I mean, Reyna does have a habit of delivering when he puts on a U.S. shirt. He's kind of the anti-Cardoso almost. So,
that's true. Yeah.
We'll have to see. What transpires and in what role. I mean, I think you got to make him part of that 3-man attacking front line, if you will. Kind of one of the other twin number 10s, beside Pulisic. Pulisic will be on the left, and then we'll see who's on the right. But I think we will see him. I mean, you'll see him at some point. Otherwise, why call him in? I mean, unless he's just been sneaking it up in training, which, from what everybody's saying, that hasn't been the case. He's been pretty sharp. So I would expect to see him.
I will say, and I'm just speaking for myself, I'll let Andy speak for himself. I've spent a lot of time on this radio show crapping on Giovanni Reyna for a lot of reasons, but I will say in the last week, I've read an interview and I've watched an interview with him, and it was like the most startlingly good mood and kind of vibe I got from the kid ever. And I just thought, wow, wouldn't it be a story if he showed up and he's on the roster and good things happen? It would just be almost miraculous.
Maybe 23 minutes and the Bundesliga has humbled him and not playing more than 20,
But he wasn't playing much for his previous Bundesliga,
Yeah, I mean, he's had a lot of humbling moments, I think, in the last couple of years at club level for sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think, everyone says he got married, he's matured. We'll see. We'll see if that translates into a good performance for the U.S. on the field.
On the opposite, with Cardoso, do you have a theory as to why a guy who is just continuously grown his club career from Brazil to Portugal to now Spain and playing for one of the three best clubs in La Liga and playing well for them too, by the way, why he just can't make it happen for his national team?
I mean, I think it has something, a little bit to do with his style. I mean, he's very possession oriented. He's very technical. He's talked about trying to play with greater intensity. He was telling me yesterday that, that's the one thing that Diego Simeone has tried to instill in him is, greater, a more consistent level of intensity when he's on the field. So,
boy, that's the guy to tell you that too.
Yeah. I mean, Cardoso is a guy that I think expects to play, tiki-taka, very, 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 very quick, very, concise touches. And that's not always the U.S. team's game. And so I think sometimes, he expects guys to zig and they end up zagging. And so, but he's been here all week. He's been training. I see him out there every day. I do think in the Gold Cup, it was a situation where he was not healthy. He was dealing with some nagging injuries and wasn't able to play very much. So
okay, so you're saying game MVP is what I'm writing down. That Cardoso game MVP.
Yeah.
New wrinkle: regulations have changed. They can each team has up to 11 subs.
They've agreed with the Belgians for that.
Up to 11. So will any time be left to actually play soccer once you're factoring all the subbing? It seems crazy, but I guess the coaches want this.
But can they do the 11? But the 11 have to be done within a limited number of
windows. Maybe, yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
They can't just do one right after the other. All right, now let's talk about the most important part in all of this, Jeff, which is goal scoring. And ironically, out of all of this, the U.S. suddenly now has a list of guys who are playing well for their club teams at striker, and we'll see a lot of that today. Do you anticipate we will see that translated over the course of these next two games?
I mean, they're playing against two very good teams, so it just depends on chance creation more than anything. I mean, I don't think. If the U.S. doesn't score much in these two games, I don't necessarily think that's going to be the fault of Folarin Balogun or Ricardo Pepi or Patrick Agyemang. I mean, it's going to be what kind of chances are Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, even further upfield, Johnny Cardoso. What kind of chances are they creating to kind of set the table for these guys? So if they create a ton of chances and these guys aren't converting, maybe a little cause for concern, but, I think overall these guys have proven it at club level that, they can score on a consistent basis. I mean, I think Patrick Agyemang, that move to Derby County was the best thing he could have done for himself.
100%.
And Balogun has been facing a lot of stiff competition at Monaco. He's come out on top. And then, Pepe, really for him, it's all about his health. I mean, can that guy stay on the field? Can he get minutes? Can he just not have his body break down on him. And so, I mean, granted, the broken arm, I mean, that was a total fluke. But, these fluky things seem to keep happening to him. So, that concerns me a little bit in terms of, just his future. I mean, that's why this proposed move to Fulham, yes, it fell through for now. It could easily be back on this summer. If that move goes through, I'm not sure the Premier League is the best place for him. It's just notoriously physical. He's going to get banged around a lot. I wonder if he could, if he has the durability to be able to thrive in a league like that.
Yeah, we'll have to have a whole conversation about Pepe and that Fulham deal and whether that's a good or a bad idea. Before you go, I just want to ask you and Andy this question, because over the course of the last 18 months, as a fan of the United States, it's been a roller coaster ride of emotions and expectation setting. I mean, it wasn't a year ago that we're like, oh my God, this is going to be awful. This is not looking good. And then suddenly the formation change happens. And everything, Weston McKennie starts playing like the baller we need him to be. Everything starts to feel better. But now they have 4 remaining warm-up games coming. The 2 here, the ones coming in late May, early June against Portugal, Belgium, Germany, and is it Senegal is the 4th one?
Yes.
All right, those are all legit World Cup teams. These aren't softballs. As a fan of the U.S., how should everybody look at what they should be expecting out of these 4 games and how it shapes their vibe going into the World Cup?
Well, I don't know if this is an expectation so much as a hope. I'm hoping for some defensive solidity, just some, getting a settled back line, getting that personnel sorted out, getting the wing back sorted out, if it's Weah and Robinson or whether it's, Alex Freeman or, Max Arston, whoever, I just want to see kind of a consistent lineup and a consistent approach. I mean, I know that Pochettino's got some agonizing decisions to make, as the deadline approaches for the World Cup roster, but, he has given a lot of chances to a lot of guys, and I would like to see him settle on a preferred lineup. And, granted, injuries are going to play a part in it, but over these 4 games, I'd like to see some kind of semblance of just consistency. And, okay, we know that Freese is going to start in goal. We know who the center backs are going to be. We know who the center mids are going to be. I'd like to see that start to take shape.
Okay, fair enough. You agree,
Yep.
Andy?
Well, I wrote it down before he even started answering. Consistency in the back line. That's key to me.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, and I hope that if the U.S. doesn't win 3 of the 4 games, I think ultimately what I would tell everybody is don't worry about the actual result. Worry about the performance and how the games play out, along with all these other consistency and positional things that we think about. And if the U.S. plays well and loses tight games, isn't such much a big deal versus getting blown out or whatever. So everybody just kind of needs to temper that stuff. Jeff, thanks so much. Oh, by the way, have you walked on or seen the field inside the stadium in Atlanta, since this is the new field for the surface for the World Cup?
Looks good, but we'll see if it plays good. I mean, it's, down on the field, the players are the ultimate judge. And so, that'll be certainly something to ask them after the game is over. Yeah, we can watch also. We can observe and see if they're slipping and sliding all over the place.
Well,
so,
the field up
right now it looks good.
The field up in New England for Brazil, France looked fantastic and looked like it played well. I haven't read any reviews of it, but it's up to you to ask the players, Jeff. I'm holding you to that, sir.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Jeff Carlisle from ESPN. You're great as always. Thanks so much. Have a good time today.
All right, cheers, guys.
Go check out Jeff all at what?
Cardoso, MVP. I have it written down.
You have it? Okay.
Yeah.
And you have his 11 written down.
I do have his 11.
Well, the 11 will be out here soon, and we'll talk about it. In fact, it may already have just now come out. We'll get into that. When we come up next, I want to find out if Andy's into going to the rodeo. Next on the KickAround. Welcome back. Thanks again to Jeff for checking in from Atlanta. And sure enough, just as we hung up, the roster came out. Jeff was wrong on a couple of notes. First off, it's Matt Turner in goal.
That's surprising.
Yes.
For sure.
So that is very... Oh, wait, hold on. Let me do that. And it's kind of surprising. But the big news is that what the lineup is going to be is very much up for debate, because he either has a 3-man back line featuring one Tanner Tessman, who has been playing center back for Lyon a few times of late, or he's switching the formation altogether to a 4-man backline, a 4-2-3-1 with Cardoso and Tessman in a double pivot, Tim Weah playing right back, and wow. And there seems to be vast disagreement amongst the U.S. media as to what this is going to be. So until the game kicks off at 2:30, nobody knows.
We'll talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, we'll get more into it when we get into our bonus segment after the top of the hour here on the KickAround. Now, first, this segment, real quickly, I wanted to get into something because yesterday, Andy and I have been talking about on this show for quite a while that everybody who loves the game of soccer in DFW should be prepared in the next year, 2 years, for an absolute onslaught of options of how to spend your soccer entertainment dollar. Because we've obviously had FC Dallas for 30 years in one form or another. We're about to get Atletico Dallas, who are going to be launching next year and playing in the Cotton Bowl. Dallas Trinity, the women's team, is already playing in the Cotton Bowl. And those teams are playing in tier 2, tier 1, somewhere, depending on which league you're thinking about. We also have some semi-pro teams already playing. McKinney Chupacabras are playing essentially, are they USL 2, which is like 4th tier? It's essentially an amateur team. But they've been getting like $4,000 showing up. There was a team playing up in Texoma and Sherman at one point. Vaqueros and Fort Worth have been around forever. And then yesterday, we got news that an event was held and the reveal of a new USL 1 team, which is a splinter of the team that was playing in Sherman. Oh, this is getting tired quickly. Sorry. Is launching next year to play in Salina, of all places. They've got a new stadium the school district is building, and it's going to be called Rodeo Soccer Club.
Okay.
And they're going to be playing in USL 1, which is the 3rd tier.
Okay.
We also probably have a team coming out in Fort Worth here in the next few weeks. So lots to choose from, Andy.
Yeah, and
and don't forget North Texas, who, by the way, are getting ready to start playing in their new stadium in Mansfield.
Fancy stadium in Mansfield. And, of course, the professional MLS club.
Right, yeah.
FC Dallas.
Right.
It is a lot of soccer to follow and to keep up with and to attend, right? And I think that's your and mine. It's not our worry, but a little bit. It's like, man, we sure hope there's enough interest in the sport to be able to carry decent attendances for all these teams so they can survive long term. And I think the teams, though, and it's important, their approach, and I think they are doing this, it's important that their approach is very community-based, niche-y, really hyper-targeting the community they're in and trying to win that community. Because I think that's how you survive, and it ultimately comes down to what their expectations are, what their goals are, and I just hope that they're realistic in terms of what their expectations are for revenue and things like that.
Game turnout, ticket sales, all of those things.
Right.
And it is interesting because this team, Rodeo, playing in Salina, is going to be part of the same structure and pyramid that Atletico Dallas is joining, but at a lower tier. So Atletico Dallas is going to debut next year in what's currently called USLC, the championship, which is the 2nd division in the American pyramid. USL says they're launching a new Premier Division, which is supposed to be equal to MLS, at least in terms of how those things go on the tree.
And that happens when? In 2 years.
In 2 years.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's this crazy story with the fact that USL is promoting themselves as a structure that will include promotion and relegation.
Yeah. And Rodeo is tier 3 within
tier
that?
3, USL 1.
So they could advance after 1 year, like get promoted.
They could.
And Atletico could get demoted, and they would be playing in the same division the next year. If
they would change.
No, because 1 would go to 2 and 3 would go to 2, and so they would play.
No, they're already playing only one division apart right now. 1 is playing in champion. Atletico Dallas is playing in championship in 2.
Right.
Rodeo in 3.
Yeah, I meant when there's a 1, 2, and 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, or either way. Yeah. Whatever.
Again, I don't want to give everybody tired head. The point to this is that it wasn't that long ago. We had no soccer professional to follow. Yeah. Then we had one thing to do, and we worried about attendance and sales and who cares about it and how do you get it on the local media radar and get coverage and all those things. Does anybody care? Now we're about to have 3, 4, 5, 6 options.
And the other thing, too, is I think some of these enterprises and new startups are banking on or counting on the World Cup leaving a lot of interest for the game, right? And I think, unlike 94, we're in a different place as a soccer country. And I think what the outcome of what the World Cup brings is not like it was in 94 that it created or led the way for the new professional league. I think it's a lot more tempered in what this World Cup will do. Mm-hmm. It'll bring attention to the game for sure, but it's not going to create sudden, because the interest is already there in great numbers. So whereas you could go from interest level 2 to 8 in 94 because the space
was a lot of headroom.
Yeah.
Right.
Now we're can we go from 6 to 8? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. So Rodeo Soccer Club playing up in Salina. All the stuff got showed off yesterday. I'm excited because we finally have a team in town that I think's primary color is going to be brown. I love it. I love brown as a team color. Brown can do for you. There you go. All right, little local soccer. Now, to get even more hyper-specific, starting tomorrow, Dallas Cup kicks off. And look who's here. It's Andy from Dallas Cup. We'll talk with him about that next year on the KickAround. Since the game kicks off at 2:30, U.S. and Belgium, and the starting 11 is out, and there's much confusion and controversy over how that's going to line up. We'll talk a little bit more about that and some other things. Yes, our required Messi mention will come up in America's favorite soccer segment known as A Dribble as our bonus segment here after the top of the hour. But first, yes, the vibe in the air is not the World Cup. It's not the the run-in on the finality of different league play or the start of a new MLS season. It is that sensation you get is we are now ready for Dallas Cup, the 47th iteration of one of my favorite things and truly one of the great sports jewels of Dallas-Fort Worth has arrived. Andy Swift, who used to be the executive director, and you're now, do you have an official title?
I'm vice president of the board, if you want official titles.
Ho, ho, ho!
Humble brag.
Oh.
Yeah, you work hard all your life so that you can have that title.
Excuse me. Do I need to curtsy?
Volunteer. Also, we're all volunteers. At the end of the day, you've been a Dallas Cup volunteer.
I
You've
have
hosted
done all the
referees.
Yes. In fact, I did a fancy Dallas Cup podcast just the other day about my homestay experience. Okay, stop it. Doesn't
you
count
still talk to
me.
your referee friends?
I do. Yeah.
In the middle of games, like Premier League games, you're texting them.
No,
hey,
no,
what was
no.
that call?
No, that's not true. No, that's not true. All right, let's talk about this year.
Yeah,
because it's a World Cup year.
Yeah, it is.
Is Dallas Cup different when it falls on a World Cup year?
I think there's heightened interest in the tournament from both abroad and within. Certainly, teams from abroad have an interest in coming. It was a little different in '94. Then there was real interest in coming to Dallas because there weren't other tournaments. There wasn't professional soccer available in the U.S. back then. So for a lot of these officials that work the game, or work with clubs, coaches, managers, executives, coming to Dallas Cup was their way to be able to connect with one of the venues for World Cup '94. Now, the U.S. it's hosting its second World Cup. Lots of other venues, other opportunities for these executives, players, coaches, referees to come to the U.S. So it's not as big a deal in that regard, but there is heightened interest. Record number of teams this year, and there's always it skews more international because of that. Where interest also peaks, though, is just from media, from general fans, local fans that know the World Cup is coming, and this is kind of a little bit of a mini World Cup. Mm-hmm. So it's like, they understand that a little bit more because of all the attention being bestowed on the World Cup coming here. So that, is a welcome benefit for the tournament.
Like everything else, when the pandemic happened, the after effects of the pandemic took its toll on a lot of things. Dallas Cup didn't got run over like everything else.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that now 5 years on, Dallas Cup is back to where it was prior to the pandemic?
Yeah, almost. I mean, it was a blow because it was for so many organizations, and as a non-for-profit, we would always reinvest back into the tournament revenues that we would able to save after expenses, and save a little bit for a rainy day. And that rainy day came in terms of the COVID situation. But then we had to basically then allocate all our savings to surviving that year without any revenue. And we're slowly starting to build that back, but it's a challenge. And as a nonprofit, every dollar counts. And that's where, if it wasn't for the support, I mean, and I always say this is a jewel, this is a gem that this soccer community has, but it's also there, and it's been able to survive all these years because of that same soccer community. They go hand in hand. Dallas Cup can provide back to the soccer community the ability for some of these teams and players to be able to play against international competition and to showcase their players to scouts from all over the world. At the same time, the community provides Dallas Cup with its ability to survive with volunteers and the support and coming out to opening day. I mean, every year now we're going on 10 years now that we get more than at the Cotton Bowl for opening day, which is incredible.
It is incredible. How many teams are participating in the tournament this year?
Over 500, because we've expanded to a few younger age groups, and we've added the girls component. We added that shortly after we came back from the COVID crisis. And that's growing as well. That's been multiplying incredibly. So we really look forward to that growing and getting to the level that the boys tournament is, especially now that we think about the 2031 World Cup, the Women's World Cup coming here. So a lot in store for that. We have a good partnerships with the Premier League, with CONCACAF, with U.S. Soccer, the Japanese Federation, all of these and others, and individual clubs as well. Like, for example, Eintracht Frankfurt keeps coming every year. They go out and they get involved in the community and with appearances and things like that. But all of these partnerships also allow us to not only have very high level and standard of competition, it allows us to bring really good officials from many parts of the world, FIFA referees from CONCACAF, from U.S. Soccer, from Europe. And that obviously helps the tournament also have the standard that it has because the officiating is really good.
So the KickAround's own Julian Eystone, who is a goalkeeper for Brentford, came up through the FC Dallas system. He's just 18. He's been playing for Brentford's B team. He's the senior team's third keeper. Brentford posted have you seen this video? Mm-hmm. They posted a video interviewing Julian, I think it was yesterday, wearing this sweet Brentford stuff, training stuff that I'm very jealous of. And he just had him talk about his Dallas Cup experience, which I thought was great. And he just talked about the value of it as a young player and how it exposes you to not just different playing styles and international play, but also as somebody wanting to go pro, just kind of exposes your game to the rest of the world and says, "Hey, look, I'm a player you may want to keep your eye on." But the part of the interview that I thought was the most important was they said, "Hey, what was the highlight of your youth playing career?" And he immediately said, winning Dallas Cup.
Yeah, incredible, right?
Which is, by the way, the number of Dallas teams that have won the Super Group in Dallas Cup, you can count on not one hand, but like a couple of fingers.
Well, Super Group, only one MLS team has won the Super Group. That was FC Dallas in 2017. Paxton, Ferreira, they were on that team. He won different age group. But
U19s, I think it was. Or U8? Even younger. Right.
Yeah, younger. Yeah. 15s, I think. But it's incredible. And what he says is true, and a lot of it is not. We get so many scouts. Some of them we know they're here. A lot of them they just show. We don't know.
You don't know they're superstars in the making until
but there are scouts that are here that we don't know of, and suddenly we hear, this player was identified at Dallas Cup, and now he's playing in Europe for Arsenal, Barcelona, or whatever. So, and it's the number of players that have played at Dallas Cup that eventually have played in the World Cup. It's just an incredible number. I think 550 World Cup matches have been played by Dallas Cup alumni.
That's crazy.
we're talking about Sweden. Eucharist is a Dallas Cup alum. So if Sweden wins their match against Poland, not only are they going to base camp here, he will have played Dallas Cup here, and now he'll play a match here for World Cup. We have a lot of stories like that. And it's not just United States. At any given time, half of the roster of the U.S. is composed of Dallas Cup alums. Same with Mexico. So that's normal. U.S. teams play here all the time. Mexican teams have an easier path to playing Dallas Cup because of logistics and distance. But we have, this World Cup, like the starting goalkeeper for Argentina played in Dallas Cup, for example, Dallas Cup champion. We have players from Australia, Brazil, Canada, Croatia, Curacao, Northern Ireland, Spain. Well, they got eliminated. Spain, England, Wales, who also got eliminated. We have Danish team if they come through.
Right.
So it's not just the countries you think. I mean, it is really.
It is fantastic, and it's my favorite thing. I love it so much, and I always fear that we end up beating people over the head with this stuff, but it's so impressive. The list of superstar players, not even current, but like legendary players that have come through and played at Dallas Cup is an incredibly long list. Raul, Beckham, Rooney, Pirlo.
Yeah.
I mean,
Chicharito.
All of them had spent time here playing in this tournament.
I think at the top 5 leading goal scorers in U.S. national team history are all Dallas Cup alums. So with the U.S. national team, for sure. It's but
one of my favorite Dallas Cup memories was back in the late 90s when they sent a U.S. men's national team to come play in the supergroup, and it had Landon Donovan, DeMarcus Beasley, Freddie. I think Freddie was on the Freddie.
That was a different year.
That was a different year. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the list of guys that were on that team that ended up becoming.
That was right before the 2002 World Cup.
That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was early aughts.
Yeah,
okay,
it was 99, and then eventually they played in the World Cup.
Yeah, I'll never forget watching those guys play up at Richland College.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's incredible. And this year, from the because we have a lot of P1s that are Premier League fans, we do have Aston Villa playing in the tournament for the first time. So that is kind of cool. And Villa is now one of the sexy names in Premier League, right? They're top 4 still, right? The senior club, and they will play opening day.
No, so they're fourth.
They're fourth. That's what I said. They're top 4.
Sorry.
Top 4 is fourth.
Yeah,
top
sorry.
4.
Okay.
They'll play Botafogo, the defending champions, and Botafogo now a big name in South American soccer. They're going through a good spell, and we're fortunate to be able to host them now a few years. And so they'll play that marquee game. But FC Dallas, this is they're the host club, and their supergroup team always gets to play high-level competition in this tournament. They'll play Fulham opening day as well at 2:30, so that'll be a good game to go watch. And one thing that is interesting, this supergroup, the MLS teams in this supergroup are going to be really strong because the GA Cup has done away with that age group, at least for this year.
Okay.
So
all those U17s.
Well, the U19 supergroups.
That's what it is. Yeah,
we can't take them all. So we've taken a select few, but like Philly's a very strong team. St. Louis, among others. So anyway, very good, strong supergroup, but. You are guaranteed that out of that collection of players, you'll have a handful at least of players that will eventually play in a World Cup. Probably not this World Cup, obviously, but maybe in 2030, 2034 for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to go to some of the paid games, those are all up at the Cotton Bowl tomorrow.
Yeah,
and then,
that's opening ceremonies. That's why it's a ticketed event.
And then there's ticketed events in the stadium at Toyota.
Next weekend. Those are the finals.
But the games that are being played at Toyota Soccer Park out on the auxiliary fields and at Richland College and at now what is now called Dallas Soccer Park, which used to be called MoneyGram off of Walnut Hill and I-35. All of those are free.
Yeah. Just go to DallasCup.org. And you can look at the schedule, look for those supergroup games. A lot of them will be played up at Toyota, some at Dallas Soccer Park.
I'm going to give you a pro tip. It's fun to go to supergroup games. It's fun to go to U19 games. But I'm telling you, if you go find yourself one of the Brazilian or Mexican or one of the really kind of international younger groups like U14 or something like that, you will be blown away at the quality of the game you watch and the quality of the players in those games. It is pretty remarkable.
There's an academy from Brazil called the Laux Performance Academy with 3 teams, 3 different age groups. Look them up in the...
How is it spelled?
LAUX Performance Academy. Different age groups. Go look them up. really good. I mean, they're not a name, but those guys are
They're
here.
going to be good.
Those guys are here. Why? They're showing off the talent that they've been developing. And by the way, we have a under 12 team from Ukraine, girls team.
Oh, really?
So if you're interested in going to support that, look it up.
Solid P1. My friend John texted me yesterday that his daughter's team is playing in the U19 group, I think, and she's super excited.
All right. What club? Give a shout out to the club? Okay.
DKSC.
Yeah, good club.
Yeah. Go Soul. All right. Very good. The Dallas Cup is back. Everybody should go treat themselves to at least one Dallas Cup game, if not all of them, if you can take them all in. When we come back, we'll do our bonus segment known as The Dribble, next on the KickAround. Time for a bonus segment, but first, we're looking over here on the television, and on Channel 11 on CBS, they're showing an NWSL game. It's the first game of the new expansion team from Denver, the Summit. Denver Summit. They're playing their first home game against Washington, which has Trinity Rodman on it. And they're not playing at the Dick's Sporting Goods place with the MLS club place.
Yeah.
They're playing where the Broncos play, which I call Mile High, but it's called something else now.
And Power Field at Mile High.
Dude,
the original Mile High.
This game is packed. There has got to be 76,000 people in there.
It seems like a sellout, which it would be 76,000. Of course, as U.S. soccer luck would have it, all big games in U.S. soccer history, like big crowds playing in front of big crowds for the first time, inaugural games, 0-0. Right? It just seems like it's always these games always end up low scoring.
That is so impressive. That place is packed.
Yeah, it is. Good
for
good
a
on
women's
them. Yeah.
NWSL game is tremendous. I'm really proud of Denver supporting like that. All right, let's do America's favorite soccer segment known as The Dribble. Okay, we had Jeff Carlisle on about an hour ago to talk about the U.S. men's national team.
Report card.
Jeff gave us his starting 11. Andy, let's judge Jeff on his predictions on the starting 11.
Well, his grade in school would be a B, 81. He would get an 82.
He'd get an 82. Should we make sure his parents sign that report card?
Yeah. So, he did really well. Got 9 out of 11. Who would have guessed Turner instead of Freeze in goal? Right?
No,
that would have been a tough one. So, field players, he got 9 out of the 10, which isn't bad. The one miss was Tillman.
Yeah.
And not trusting in the back. Tillman in. So, that leads to the speculation. Are we back to the 4-man back line?
Yeah, so this is crazy because while we're in commercial break, I'm feverishly trying to see if anybody's got a consensus on what this is going to be when it kicks off in about 12 minutes. Because what he's done, either one of two things has happened. Pochettino is going to stick with this three center back line that has converted the team from being pretty crappy to really good. But he's going to have to do that. He's going to have to stick Tanner Tessman back there, which is in the 11. Tessman's played center back for Lyon a few times of late. Buzz Carrick used to say he'd be a $70 million player if he'd played center back.
Maybe Pochettino read that comment.
Yeah, maybe. Or Pochettino wildly changes formation back to a 4-2-3-1 in the lead up to the World Cup, which seems even crazier.
So, two ways to look at this. By the way, the 4-man backline question I posed wasn't so dumb, was it, Peter?
No.
Even though you scoffed and rolled your eyes.
I so did. I regret it highly now.
Two ways to look at it. Pochettino deems it important to keep the same formation because it affects not just the back line, it affects everything.
Consistency.
Right?
You and Jeff both talked about defensive consistency leading up to the World Cup.
You inject that there, and then you work with Tanner, whatever. He may have to do it during the World Cup, and you're testing it out now. Or you're like, in the World Cup, injuries happen. I may have to bust up the 3-man back line in case we get depleted. I gotta get these guys comfortable playing either way, and so let's go this way, right?
100%.
You could see him doing that too.
Yeah, and by the way, while I am leery of the idea of changing the formation, I'm kind of in love with the idea of seeing Tanner Tessman and Johnny Cardoso play as a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1. I'm really interested to know if that actually works, because I'm telling you, if that worked, that could really change things for this team.
Well, what happens to Adams at that point?
Well, I mean, look, Adams is hurt.
Yeah.
But you could make a double pivot with Adams as one of those two at that point.
Anyway, but you agree, center back thing is the one. Okay.
What I think it'll be is I think it will be a back three. I think Tanner will be one of the back three. And the one element to that idea tactically that I think is really tasty is the idea that Tanner can carry the ball out of the back when U.S. has possession in a way that nobody else.
Yeah, and under pressure as well.
And
right?
under pressure because he's a midfielder by trade. He's really, really good on the ball. And I just kind of dig the idea of Tanner getting the ball, carrying it out of the back, and almost becoming an additional midfielder in possession.
One of the secrets to Liverpool's title last year was Van Dijk actually doing that.
Yeah. That's what I think it will be. But until the game kicks off in about 10 minutes, nobody knows. Crazy stuff. So the U.S. and by the way, this is all happening against Belgium, which is no slouch.
No, they're pretty good.
And I haven't seen. Crap! I should have looked up. I haven't seen Belgium starting 11. I don't know if they're throwing out their.
Doesn't matter who it is.
Nah, it's the USA, man. It's all Yank. The other thing I want to note: everybody keep an eye on this because this is really important. This game is being played in Atlanta inside the Mercedes-Benz Stadium that the Falcons play in and Atlanta United plays in. It's usually a AstroTurf or a fake turf surface. No, this is the new grass installation that FIFA helped develop.
The hybrid.
It's mostly grass with a little bit of fake grass sewn in, but it's on a permavoid that has a plumbing system and irrigation and ventilation and all this crazy stuff. Same kind of thing they're doing over in Arlington. Keep an eye on how this surface plays because this is the World Cup surface.
Yeah.
But
it hasn't been – it wasn't installed too far. It's just too early to really judge it if it's only been laid down 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but you know how this is going to go. If it plays like crap and people are slipping and turf's coming up, everybody's going to freak out in the lead up to the World Cup.
I just want to say now, it is not going to be – it'll be – whatever happens today, our field here in
Dallas
is going to be
beautiful. By the way, there is an installed surface up in Boston where they played the Brazil-France game, and that field looked and played fantastic.
That was an installed field as well?
That's a turf field naturally.
Right, yeah.
So they put in a whole thing.
Okay.
In fact, a Revolution game got postponed because the weather kept them from installing the field on time.
Okay.
So it looked great on Wednesday or whatever day it was that game was played.
Okay.
So keep an eye on that. Just a little pro tip. Beyond the game itself, check out how the surface plays inside the robot's anus of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. By the way, we also found out that they're going to have to cover up all the branding on the stadiums, and Mercedes, the Atlanta Stadium's the only one that they got an exception for.
Well, I think other stadiums are probably working things through.
Maybe. We'll see. They couldn't get it off the crazy mechanism that is that opening roof in Atlanta. Speaking of stadiums, Andy, moving on to another subject, today's the day. Mexico has a friendly, and they're playing in what you and I have always called the Azteca, the historic Azteca, which is also hosting World Cup games. In fact, it will host the opening game against South Africa.
More World Cup games hosted at the Azteca than any stadium in the world, by the way, because this is their third World Cup.
That is correct, 70 and 86. And it has undergone a massive renovation project, which they are in a furious hurry to finish.
They're a little behind schedule out here.
And I was reading an article today about that. They were like, we don't understand why they waited so long to start because they've had all this time to do all this work.
There was a lot of politics.
Is that what it was? What politics of what?
I don't know,
Mexican
permits and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it looks pretty great. They've put all new seating, new digital displays, all kinds of crazy stuff. They've also renamed it. Now it's no longer called the Azteca, and this bums me out. They've sold the naming rights, not for the World Cup, but now it's called Estadio Banorte, which is
but World Cup won't have that. Yeah, Banorte is a bank. By the way, a little bit of the reason they got delayed, if you're interested, I'll tell you real quick, is because suite holders own the suite permanently. And they had to all buy into the renovations and how they were going to do it and how their suite was going to be renovated. And so it took a long time to get everybody on the same page.
Could you imagine homeowners over?
Yeah, so a little bit of politics, yes.
Oh, that would stink. The other piece of drama going on, we talked about this the other day, is what's going to happen with the African Cup of Nations winner. We know the drama between the Senegalese and the Moroccans, where Senegal won despite protesting and leaving the field for 14 minutes. They came back, ended up winning the game and winning the trophy. Well, then CAF, the Confederation, overturned it and gave the trophy to Morocco, at least not officially handing it to them, but you know what I'm saying. Well, now Senegal has filed a appeal with the Court Arbitration for Sport, asking them to overturn the overturn and give us their championship back.
They both play in the World Cup. Wouldn't it be awesome if they somehow ended up playing in the next round?
Yes. But I'm curious, as a guy that does match officiating for CONCACAF, how do you feel that should be fairly done at this point? Do you have an opinion on it?
Well, it goes back to the team withdrawing for 15 minutes and whether they broke a rule that then can be overturned. I think once it was allowed to happen and the outcome of the match was determined the way it was without calling any incident at that time, I think they just had to let it stand. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of feel
you just have to let Senegal keep it.
Yeah, they should have called the game when Senegal stomped off the field.
At that point,
it should have been said and done.
Right.
But once you gave that up, I think you just have to go with the outcome of the game.
Right.
I think I agree with you on that. I think they screwed it up from the jump. 100%. Although there were so many bad things in the aftermath that we saw both ways, it just made that whole thing a farce. Last but not least, we were talking about the Denver-Washington NWSL game being played in front of like 70 kabillion people in Denver. I don't know if you've heard this story, but Catarina Macario, U.S. women's national team star, who has been playing over for Chelsea in London. She's also of Brazilian descent, and her decision to play for the U.S. instead of Brazil was a huge deal many years ago. Well, she now is part of a massive deal to move from London to San Diego to join the San Diego Wave on a deal that'll cost $8 million. She will end up being the most expensive deal of women's football history, and she falls underneath the NWSL's new high-impact player rule, and the money she will make and the money that it'll cost San Diego to get her. But that is a big deal that we continue to see women players getting traded and sold. Not traded, but sold, and then paid significant sums of money for the first time ever.
I think we're at about every 6 to 8 months we get a new record for a transfer fee in the women's game.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%. All right. Anything else you'd like to touch on, Andy?
No, just looking at my notes. I think we covered everything except Messi. You mentioned it, so you have to bring it up.
I do, because we're required to.
Yeah, right.
Cumulus requires us to mention Messi. Miami, who has their new stadium opening here soon, has announced the Messi stand.
That's original.
That one of the sides of the stadium will be named after Messi, a player who still plays for the club.
Yeah.
What? Do we give an exception for the fact that it's Messi before we call it stupid?
It's their club. They can do what they want. Who cares?
You don't think it's a little clowny?
A little, yeah. Stupid. Yeah. He's your player. You're the Messi fan. Messi. He's always calling you.
He's just my friend.
Yeah.
You know, he and I have regular conversations all the time. So the same. Sadly, it's the exact same conversation every single time. But it never changes from him just telling me hello. But there you go. All right. Very good. Love all of it. Thank you. That's enough of America's favorite soccer segment known as The Dribble. Now, next week, Andy and I are doing a short 1-hour show from noon to 1. We'll recap the 2 U.S. men's national team games and also take a deeper look at the 6 teams that will have qualified for the World Cup by the time we get around to doing that next week. We'll do that as a short show as the Stars have a game pregame at 1 o'clock. So thanks to Cam for doing tickers. Thanks to Dylan for producing. Thank you to Connor for being awesome in all the ways that he is. Andy, good luck with Dallas Cup this year.
Thank you, sir.
Love it. Thank you, P1s. We love and adore you. Go on out there. Win your 50s.